Hello, my friends. I'm Chris Capocia, attorney mediator. Very grateful for your company on the Conflict Counselor podcast. As I've recounted in previous episodes, my job is to help litigants in our Michigan court settle their lawsuits through mediation. As the mediator, I assist the parties in identifying the issues to be resolved and possible solutions for settlement. And frankly, I'm pretty successful in mediation with a nearly 70% settlement rate. However, among the approximately 30% of actions that don't settle, there is a subset of cases that are nearly impossible to mediate, let alone settle. And these I call the angry cases. The angry cases are those in which the hostility of one or both parties prevents meaningful dialogue, which, in turn, prevents settlement of the dispute. This hostility is manifest in the form of verbal personal attacks, nonstop talking to effectively silence the other party, and refusal to communicate or otherwise participate in mediation. In the worst of the angry cases, the parties have a physical altercation. Fortunately, with the court officers standing by, this is a rare occurrence. What is also fortunate is that in this episode of the Conflict Counselor, I can say what the feuding parties refuse to hear, and that is, when it comes to resolving conflict, anger is not your friend. Now, I've heard other commentators suggest that the anger emotion is your friend, in the sense that it alerts you to an underlying problem that should be resolved. This may be true, but in the underlying problem that involves conflict with another person, I'll say it again, anger is not your friend. This is because anger thwarts the human responses necessary for conflict resolution, including listening and hearing, clear, reasoned thinking, empathy, and a willingness to compromise. Here's an example from a recent case on my docket. A bride contracted with a wedding planner to decorate the reception venue. The wedding planner was, admittedly, 2 hours late with the floral arrangements, thereby delaying key events at the reception. The bride sued the wedding planner for breach of contract and requested a full refund. At mediation, the bride was understandably angry in recounting her anxiety on that already stress-filled day. Now, perhaps there was a legitimate reason for the wedding planner's tardiness. Maybe his van broke down, or his child was sick, or whatever. We were never able to discuss the reason. The bride's hostility would not allow her to rationalize the wedding planner's lateness. She felt no empathy for him and would not compromise her demand for a full refund. Moreover, there was no listening to his explanation for what happened and his offer to settle. In short, her anger completely derailed any possibility of resolving the dispute short of a judge's ruling. Perhaps the most troubling thing about the angry cases, really about anger in general, is that it compounds the problem. Because the underlying problem is now overlaid by the anger problem. Add to that the costs in time, money, and stress of the protracted conflict, and it is quite clear that, indeed, anger is not your friend. Well then, who is your friend when it comes to resolving conflict? I believe your friend is that little person in your head who is saying, listen, reason, empathize, and compromise. Because it's the right thing and the smart thing to do. And what became of the bride and the wedding planner case? Suffice to say that the judge's award to the bride was less than I believe the wedding planner was willing to offer at mediation. Blame it on the anger. As always, thanks for listening to the Conflict Counselor. In the next episode, our 30th, we'll discuss two little words that have big ramifications in sales transactions, and you'll hear them as is. See you then.